Gabby. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about some things. So let's go. So, welcome to Tea Time with Gabby. Although I am not drinking tea right now, I left my tea in the room. That's fine. I just wanted to get this out. I want to quickly talk about the books that I have been reading recently or have read recently. None of these are finished. Most of these are finished. And one that I did finish a while ago, since last year, but I still want to briefly mention it too. While I'm talking about it. I usually don't talk about the books I read or reading. So, and these are all books from the library. I borrowed from the library. I didn't buy any of these, and they're all ebooks, so there's no physical copies either. I'm sorry. So the first one I want to briefly mention, is the one I recently had to return because someone else put a hold on it, so I can't renew it. I just put a hold on it, but I'm personally not sure if I should have. I might cancel that. I don't know. The reason being, by the way, the book is called Cult X. And the reason being, though I find some inspiration from it in terms of the main protagonist that we're following, Agony or self-hatred, which I find some inspiration from it, how I could apply that to one or two of my characters, and how I could explore that in a way that will probably work my story. I'm not sure 100% sure how I would work it in, but I probably can. I feel like this will be something one of my characters will go through, and it might work as a emotional plot point into the story. But the whole reason why I'm questioning about doing it is because, one, at least it makes me uncomfortable, and but that's not the reason why. It's because I have a hard time following the story. And it's an ebook. It's an audiobook. Sorry, this one specifically is an audiobook. So I am listening to it, but if I don't listen to it, even if I'm listening to it continuously, like flowingly, like without stop, I still found parts of it where I'm confused and conflicted because, one, I'm not usually just listening to it while I'm not sitting there listening to it. I'm usually doing something else, and usually which was like drawing. And then when I went back to it, and another time I was listening, I fell asleep. So it's not the most engaging story ever. And as it is, it's confusing. Where it started with, like, because it's talking about two different cults. It takes place in two different like cults. One doesn't even consider itself a cult. One is definitely a cult, and that's where the term Cult X comes from, because no one knows the name of this cult, and it takes place in Japan. And so it jumps from one place to another, but they both sound so seamlessly the same that I can't tell where the protagonist is. Is he in one cult? Is he in the other? Is this the same cult? And then so there were times and points, for me at least, where I was like, was I not paying attention? Did they mention it? Okay. So yeah, it was kind of confusing for me to follow. Maybe because I was working while drawing while listening, so I wasn't fully paying attention. Even when I was sleeping, I probably had a better idea, but not sleeping, falling asleep. I wasn't sleeping when I was sleeping. But yeah. And then the other books that I was reading I didn't finish one. It's called Dirt Diary, and it's not the type of book I'm usually interested in. I started reading it, but I didn't finish it. I only got not that far in. A few chapters in, and yeah, I picked it up 4 times. I read an hour and a minute, and I would have finished in like 2 hours and 48 minutes. But it wasn't, again, the type of book I'm usually interested in. Part of it is it is not a bad story. It is an interesting story. I picked up just to get inspiration of what kind of YA I want to write. But this is the other type of YA I want to write. Well, to get a more better inspiration of how to formulate and write my YA. And I did get that in terms of the short chapters, and have many chapters, but each chapter is short, so that's why I started formulating my story to write shorter chapters. But in terms of the overall story, I didn't get much inspiration out of it. Although it was kind of interesting, it was not the type of YA or stories I'm interested in. So I didn't pick it right back. I didn't pick it up back up. So yeah. Moving on to the book I am currently reading, which is A Cat's Tale. There is an audiobook, but I'm reading the ebook. So It is basically the history of cats. It told by, technically it's a human who wrote it, but it's told through the perspective of a cat. So a cat's telling the history of cats, basically. And then I found it was very interesting. The Egyptian part was hard to get to, but the Asian part was easy to get through. And I'm currently up to medieval, where I talk about the history of cats during the medieval European area, and it's really fascinating. I love that area too, because it was started so good, and then it came to a downfall, and I find that like a good inspiration from those how to formulate my little mythical cat history for my own stories. So I'm actually enjoying reading that one. I haven't read it in a while, but I want to pick that back up. I renewed it, so definitely going to continue reading that. And let's see, my reading history. 3 hours and 5 minutes, so I have 6 hours and 19 minutes to go to finish this book. So it is a big book. And so next book I'm currently reading, and this one is the interesting one. The other ones are not as interesting, but it's more helpful in terms of study guides or writing guides. Is the anatomy of genres. The anatomy of genres. So remember the seminar I mentioned, one of the seminars I mentioned I attended online, had a list of books that will help you. This specific book wasn't, but the author was John Trudy, was one of the authors that wrote another book. Let me see if it's down here. Nope. Who wrote a book about writing. He wrote another different book about writing, not this one, that would have been helpful. The other one was already, what do you call it again? Borrowed, and it would have been a one on wait list, but this one was available just in there, so I was like, alright, cool, I'll just read this one then. And I actually do find this, I wasn't sure this was going to be helpful because it's about genres. It's actually very helpful, because even though it's about genres, they do have story beats to help you break down each genre, and it also tells you and it helps me even define which genre I'm even writing in, because that's another thing, I don't even define what genre I'm writing, and I was just like, here's a story that I'm going to write about this, and it's like, yeah, it's going to be, I forgot the word for it, but speculative fiction, yes, but I'm not specific which speculative fiction. But then reading this gives me an idea of what speculative fiction, not only for the story I was planning to use it for, which is done the zombie Dobutsu, but also the Higairu Hime story, which gives me a better idea of like, oh, what kind of speculative fiction will specifically where there was this story will fit into, and I'm like, is horror religion, horror religion myth, which is very interesting. I'm like, oh, that's perfect, that actually works. While my zombie Dobutsu will fit in with the sci-fi myth, horror sci-fi epic, which is what I really like. Oh, okay, so I know what story beats I could help formulate to help keep me on track, which is very helpful. Although it's not the most interesting, as I said, this is not the most interesting story, but it's more helpful. But compared to the other story, the other one I just recently picked up, I cannot say is going to be the most interesting. Hold on. How much more I gotta go? So I read 3 hours, and I have a day, 3 hours, and 24 minutes left to finish the book. This one is huge, but it's nothing compared to the other one I should start picking up reading, although I put it to borrow like a while ago. Let's see if I can find it. The 7 basic plots, which is like story plots, which I just picked up. This one's the least interesting, but it's supposed to be helpful, by Christopher Brooker. I'm not sure exactly how yet. It is even more dull than the other one, and I have 7 hours and 10 minutes. So supposedly this would be although it has more this one has more pages. This one should be finished even faster than the genre one, which is funny to me because the genre one has less pages. Oh, I can't speak. So those are the current stories I'm reading. Those are the 3 I'm currently reading now. One I'm just picking back up. One I completely dropped. And then it was... The next one I want to bring up is one that I actually... Ooh, this one I actually quite enjoy was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurley. It's been a while since... she wrote this a while ago, but I'm just now reading it only because I got the book. the library when I came back, access to it. So I read it and it was like very interesting and had fun with it. But the one I want to mention and talk about today is one by Tiana Obey, which is, first one I read was Bones to the Wind, which is the first book, and then I read Dragons Your Bones, and I love this book. This is the kind of speculative fiction, YA, I don't even know if this is YA, but it's very interesting. I enjoy the story, and I enjoy the character so much that I am disappointed by the end. So, let's give a little preview as well. These kids have to go through this journey in the desert to prove their adulthood. To become an adult, they have to do this kind of test where they go out on their own and hunt. And there are certain rules that they must follow. If they do not follow those rules, they will be cut off not only from their family, the community, and be kicked out of the whole village. And because of this dragon, food source is very scarce. So, and it doesn't matter what your place in life is, whether you're in a hierarchy where you're in charge of the whole village, or you're the very bottom person. Everyone gets an equal share, depending on how much you hunt or how much you work for the village is how much you receive in terms of food. And so one of these people two of the ones that are going through the ceremony, one had went through the story before, but because he failed the first time, he was allowed, due to reasons, I forgot. I guess he gets 2 chances. He is allowed a second chance. But he has no longer have a will to fight or live. He wants to die. Especially because one, his father is very abusive, and his mother, he felt like his mother's death is his fault. It is not. And then, and this other girl who wants to prove her worth so badly for her father, for her own name, because she wanted to be better than her father, and her father also died, and that was the person that she was the most closest to. And so the first book is going through the whole journey, and then the second book is the final end of the journey, and when they came back, and then the whole political side of it, of the sister who's also on the journey that year, who not only want to prove her worth, but also become the next leader to help protect her family, but especially her brother, who she cannot afford to lose emotionally. That's suicidal, by the way. And then to protect her family and bring them back together. And it was such a roller coaster. I loved it. I read through it in a day as soon as I got the second book. So actually I kind of skipped through it. So I want to borrow it back again another time. It's quite popular as it's on hold. I gotta put it on hold. But yeah, it's the recommend. Good book. So those are the books I want to talk about. And if you had to choose a book that you want for writing, I can so far I recommend the Anatomy of Genres. But if in terms, I guess, ones you could get through quickly, I guess the 7 Basic Plots. Again, neither of them are the most interesting, but they are quite informative. And I'm not sure if I would recommend Cult X, but to each his own. As I said, I just have problem following it. That's probably just me. And yeah, that's about it in terms of the books I read that interested me. Oh, one more I want to talk about is Dress Dreams. If you want to know about fashion specifically for African American women, I recommend Tasha C. Ford, Dressed in Dreams. She wrote about the whole the biggest fashion trends for African Americans throughout her father's and mother's teenage lives to her recent adult life. And so you could read that, listen to that. It's an audiobook. It's 7 hours, so it's quite quick. And I enjoy it. Those are all the books I will recommend and are currently reading. So thank you for listening. Hopefully you find this informative. Thank you.